Hello, and welcome to the Responsive Podcast. My name is Joe Kopyt. I am the Director of Integrated Marketing here at Responsive, and I am your host today. I am so excited to be joined by Megan Cutter from CAPTRUST. Welcome to the Responsive Podcast, Megan.
Thanks so much, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Megan, can you share a little bit more about what you do at CAPTRUST and let our audience know a little bit more about CAPTRUST?
Yes, I am a manager of the RFP knowledge management team. So this is a branch that supports the sales enablement business development team here at CapTrust, and we focus on administration, subject matter expert coordination, as well as content updates and technology integration for the RFP team here at CapTrust. And CAPTRUST is a financial investment firm, so we support our advisors as they go out for their sales team searching for institutional business.
Okay, so it sounds like you and your team have a lot on your plate. And before we dig into that, I'd love to sort of turn back time a little bit and explore how you ended up in this field. So, like so many of our customers and all of the wonderful people I've met in this field over the past couple of years, a lot of people have a pretty indirect path to strategic response management, to knowledge management, to proposal management, and your story is no different. So, can you share a little bit about how you ended up working in this field?
Absolutely. My background and specialty at that time was website updates and newsletters back when they were print, believe it or not. And we were all working on WordPress blogs. So I am really a content creator at that time. We designed content for blogs, websites, and other print media. My journey to CAPTRUST is a little bit of an indirect one. I was searching for a new role, shifting from the nonprofit arena to more of a business background. And I found CAPTRUST there at that time were in my backyard, a local company, and it intrigued me to be part of their research team. I started out being an administrator for our chief investment officer at that point of time, who was really focused on research and wanted an elevated eye for their work. So I stepped into that role and had a lot of interaction with our senior team members. In 2017, there was an opportunity to move to the marketing team and focus specifically on RFPs.
Absolutely. So take me back a little bit to these early days. No RFP experience, no financial services experience. I know when we spoke earlier that you mentioned there was a lot of trial by fire. So can you walk us through some of what you did in those very first days, those few months that set you up for success, and maybe share some of the missteps that you took that our audience can learn from?
For sure. When I stepped into the role into RFPs, at that time, it was a one person model. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I assisted a RFP production from the beginning to the end. And my first few months was just completely absorbing and learning all about RFPs as well as the process. My manager at that time had really created a foundational process, which we still use today. It set the stage up for success for our team. And there were new aspects that we needed to incorporate. So, in the very beginning, my teammate went out of the office for a time. And again, I just learned everything on my own in terms of okay, when you get an RFP in, what are the first steps that you take? And I was able to follow the foundations that they set to really create an effective model for that RFP production. We still used a lot of archaic aspects at that point in time. We used Excel to keep all of our content in one place. And Excel was probably not the best methodology. So during those first few years, we took the steps to look at what is a better way to house content, especially when we needed to make updates at a faster pace? So that was a trial by fire in terms of stepping into a completely new process, as well as assessing what are some new things that we need to do to carry us into the future.
Yeah, so what are some of the learnings from those early days when you started exploring what I'm hearing is that you started exploring new technologies, right? Moving away from something that you felt was archaic and inefficient. And we hear this from so many of our users. It's remarkable even today how many people rely on spreadsheets with thousands of Q&A pairs in them. So what were some of the learnings when you started to dip your toe in new technologies that you can share with the audience?
The first step was assessing what technology our company needed to use that would be the most efficient for where we were at the time and also where we wanted to take things in the future. That was the first piece to really look at the different products, including responsive, to get a feel for what was out there, what interfaces our team would like to interact with, and what methodologies needed to overlay the technology to make it successful. I know in the beginning we prided ourselves on uploading 2 years worth of content into the platform, but some of that content was not updated or maybe included a advisory name or a prospect name, and we really needed to clean all of that out and have taken steps to create successful and efficient methodologies to keep all of that content clean. So, in the very beginning, we were just setting the stage and learning about what was effective and maybe what was not effective. I think with any technology, whatever content you put into it, that's what you're going to receive out of it. So, really building that foundation and best practices is something that we still take a lot of time to design.
And in those early days, who was involved in this content cleanup, this knowledge management project?
Yeah, so we had the opportunity to expand both on the prospect side. So we were responding to more RFPs, and that also led to a shift in our team. So we needed to grow our team very quickly. And as our team grew, they were in the beginning relying on those Excel spreadsheets. So we needed to upload content into the repository very quickly, so that they could have access to it. And in the beginning, we relied on our management to understand the resources that we needed at that time. We were very privileged to have senior team leadership that understood the resources we needed, both on the technology side as well as on the human side, needing more team members to join our team. And both of those things happening at the same time led for this evolution and process. So that's how we took time to really establish for our team was the one person team model, the best for us. And that is where we began to look at, okay, knowledge management is its own specialty, its own body of work, and maybe breaking off this technology piece and expanding on that would support our full RFP execution team in a completely new way.
That's fantastic. Yes, and it's so great to hear of the close relationship that you have with your management and leadership. I think that's so vital to investing in into the organization, right? So you could better
Yes.
support the entire end-to-end process. So you've hinted multiple times the team has grown, right? It went from a one-person shop to a multiple-person shop. What does the structure of the team look like today, and how does that support your processes?
Yes. So our RFP team, we have two different functions. One is the execution team. So there's an oversight team member who is managing that team, keeping everything rolling, vetting out the RFPs that we are responding to, and keeping all of the organization and the production moving forward. So there are a number of drafters, and their specialty is putting the deliverables together, working with our financial advisors to see what they need, working with them on editing the drafts, designing customized content, packaging those deliverables out, and sending them out in whatever manner they're asked for. On the knowledge management side, we are behind the scenes. So we are registering for website platforms. We're now seeing many more RFPs being requested through technical web based platforms. There's an extensive registration process in some of those. So that's now a specialty area, as well as having one person coordinating all the subject matter expert responses. This is really important because our what we found was our SMEs were getting overwhelmed if more than one person was reaching out to them at a time for multiple RFPs. So having one point of contact really helped the SMEs create a successful plan to respond on time. And now we have added this content specialty where we have one dedicated team member who is focused on updating content, working with responsive and other vendors on integration of content, and working with our strategic brand marketing team to ensure that that content that's being designed on the higher level filters down through our RFPs to really show the best of what our company has to offer.
That's great. It sounds like you have a really robust infrastructure in place. Now, you mentioned that the knowledge management team is operates behind the scenes, right? And I would imagine, every time I go to a BPC conference or we hold our responsive summit or a responsive event, the number one pain point for a lot of proposal managers and knowledge managers is collaborating with subject matter experts, right? So, given that you are behind the scenes, using your own words here, what are you doing to to communicate the value of the work that you're asking SMEs to contribute?
I give all of that credit to our subject matter expert coordinator. They really shine in that area to collaborate between the drafter or the advisor for the RFP that's going out, as well as the subject matter expert team. The subject matter expert coordinator, they really go out to every team across our firm, over 15 teams, and there's over 70 subject matter experts in the responsive platform who are responding to questions. She understands their level of volume. She understands the way that they communicate that's effective or ineffective. And she is able to really explain the value that they have in the revenue process and building up our firm, which is so vital and important. So I give all the credit to our matter expert coordinator because she is dedicated to building those collaborative relationships in the best way possible. And sometimes we don't always know what works best, and she needs to shift some priorities around for the subject matter expert. So, again, having one focused team member has been really successful, as well as communicating the value of their work and how the successes of the RFPs contribute to the revenue of the firm so that the SME knows the vital part they are playing.
You mentioned that you're communicating to SMEs the value that your particular team and the larger RFP team is driving in that you're driving revenue directly for the firm and their contributions are contributing to that effort. So how are you communicating the impact that your team is having on things like revenue, on growing the firm to the larger organization?
Communication is really vital in explaining not only what our team does, but the contribution that each of our teams make in the revenue and the growing aspect of our firm. For my colleague on the RFP execution side, she may be looking at win loss rates or the rate of how many RFPs have gone to finals. From there, how many RFPs have become clients? What is the ratio in our different business lines so we know where to specialize and really hone our content and focus, as well as what areas do we need to improve on? So she's really looking at the statistics in terms of what we have accomplished as a firm and what we might need to do better. On the RFP knowledge management side, we're taking a look at what are the content usage rates? How much content is obsolete? What are the content counts? That helps us hone in terms of the focus for our areas of improvement as well as where we've been successful. In addition, I've been looking at KPIs for not just what we produce, but also for things we prevent. So, in technology integration, we're not only looking at what we do, but we're looking at the solutions that we come up with the vendors such as Responsive and what those solutions are able to contribute to the success for our team. So if I can solve a problem for our drafter, then our drafter doesn't have to deal with that when they're executing and submitting an RFP. So we're also taking a look at what are the technical aspects that we've been able to creatively problem solve. How are the integration points within our technology supporting the drafting team in terms of the turnaround it takes for a first draft or a final draft? And then the exciting aspect of where AI is contributing or not to the places where we are revising and editing new content so we're not having to hand edit every single response. Those are the KPIs that my team is taking a look at. And we've created some unique dashboards for our senior team leaders to demonstrate some of those use cases.
Fantastic. So you brought up the buzzword AI, I guess the buzz letters, right? AI. It's on everyone's minds. It's kind of restructuring the way that everyone gets work done across virtually every single industry or field. So, how exactly is your job changing? How exactly is knowledge management in the world of RFPs, in the world of strategic response management being impacted by AI right now?
I think AI is an interesting topic and will impact our industry in unique ways going forward. At first, I think the conversation was around job safety and security. Am I going to still have a job tomorrow, or is it going to be replaced by AI? And I think in the proposal world, we are always going to have the human element. Our prospects specifically request customized content that is not just generated by AI. They want to know, how is our company going to benefit them uniquely and in very specific ways? So, therefore, we're always going to have a human element that designs and creates content. I think where AI is going for us initially is the editing in the pace where we can change the formatting or the number of words for a response. So in the past, if we've had a response that is a page or 5 pages long and we have an Excel spreadsheet submission, how do we distill that down into a couple of lines or a paragraph? So, in this beginning, we're really looking at how to use AI for content revisions that we can really upgrade and really lift some of the content that has been several years old. So, right now, it's more of an editing, a summary, really pulling and extracting information out instead of just a full on creating content.
Absolutely. And I know when we spoke earlier, you mentioned that AI has been a little bit of a slow boil on your team. And I think that that sentiment would be echoed by a lot of people working in financial services or highly regulated industries, given that there's a lot of information and a lot of risk to the information that you're sharing, right? So you need to really make sure that everything is accurate and compliant. So, and then you also mentioned too that initially AI was quite scary because a lot of people thought it might be coming for their jobs. Now that we are kind of learning both the benefits and the limitations of the technology, I assume that some of that sentiment has shifted a bit. But I know too that there's probably been resistance on your team to adapting to this new technology. So, what's worked for you in getting your team members comfortable with AI?
I think there's two elements in this process. There's the technology itself, and there's the human element and creating trust as well. The technology itself, I'll speak to that first. We use more static functions. So, what I mean by that is our compliance department in financial industries and other regulated industries, departments such as compliance, human resources, legal, those cybersecurity and IT, those are all departments where the content needs to be approved by their senior team leadership. That's not content that's going to be generated automatically. So we need to have static products. So if we have content for a compliance question that is approved by their team and it does not change and from response to response. Where some other aspects, such as our strategic marketing or language around our business line, might be a little bit more flexible and fluid. And again, in those rewrites and lifting our content, we might be able to use AI for those aspects. It's also really important for our company and others to have any vendors that we use approved by our IT and security teams. This is so that we can ensure that any product that we use is compliant within our industry, and things like proprietary information or client names is held safe and secure and not part of any outside information source. I think our company and myself, just as an individual, really has high ethics in terms of what we hold safe for our company and where we might use a vendor for um, a content repository or coordinating subject matter experts. So that's the technology side of things. I'll speak to the other side, which is the human element of AI, and that is how we work with our team internally. So, on the human and psychological aspect, we want to trust the products that we use. So, there's a lot of testing from the knowledge management side in terms of how a technology resource is going to work. And we do all of that before we roll it out to our execution team. We also want to design training manuals or have training opportunities for that team so they know how to use it in the way that it's designed. And then again, we might overlay some aspects of our company's usage and we might shift methodologies if we need to. Our core element is creating collaboration and trust. So we want to know from our execution team what's working and what's not. And then in some element, our team becomes a technology help desk. So if they run into any issues, they tap us and we can assist them in figuring out what's going on from a technology perspective. So they know that they're not alone if they run into an issue. And again, that helps create collaboration and trust as a whole team comes together.
And how are you collecting this feedback from the execution team?
We have one content team member who really will collaborate with the drafter team. We reach out to the drafter team and the RFP execution team to see how things are going, where they're running into trouble spots, and what's working and successful for them, which we may not even know on our end. So we do take time both in an individual way to reach out, as well as providing a form example for any content updates that we see along the way. So that's another way that we can track and report on what we're doing. We have an avenue where they can request changes that are being made. We can assess and review what those changes are. And then if we implement them, we have a track record historically on what those are.
So you've talked about some of the early exploration with AI, some of these early wins, such as when it comes to editing, maybe reducing word count or restructuring, reformatting responses. What are you most looking forward to, let's say, in the next 12 months when it comes to AI, whether it be experimentation or just standing up net new processes?
I think there's a lot of exciting places to go with AI if we look at it in a strategic way. Again, really assessing what's working, what may not be beneficial and work for the team so that we don't spend time on that and we really focus on some early wins. So I think we're going over the next 12 months going to be standing up this process of how do we integrate the AI aspect, but with that human overlay to ensure the content that we produce is again approved by any subject matter experts, but also eases using AI can ease that aspect of it might reduce the time to distill content down or to make it from passive to active or gives a lift for that subject matter expert to start off of instead of starting at ground zero. So it can help lift up our subject matter expert team as well. I'm really excited about implementing some of these new aspects and designing out what content needs to remain static and how do we hold that in its foundational element, and then how do we overlay the AI aspects in an effective manner. And that's something I think we're all going to be testing throughout time.
You spoke earlier about the value of the human in the loop, right? And it sounds like that work, that strategic work, requires a lot of human judgment and something that I don't think AI or technology will be able to achieve anytime soon, figuring out which responses need to remain static, etc. And I love too that you've been talking about collaboration. So I think collaboration extends not just across people and processes, but it really sounds like technology is becoming just a much more visible part of that collaborative process. It's always been there, but now I think it's just a little bit more seen. So, for someone who's just starting out in proposal or knowledge management, we have a lot of kind of people that are just a year or two into their careers who get a lot of their foundational education from responsive resources like the responsive podcast, our blog. What advice do you have for these people?
In the beginning, there was a lot of just absorbing knowledge. So, understanding the environment from the content perspective, the company that you're working for, as well as some of these new technology systems. And I think there's this really unique overlay and layers to each of these elements. So, really, the first step for me has just been absorbing the environment, going to industry related conferences and proposal conferences as well. We are unique in what we do because of the role that we play in business development, and we are not alone on that journey. So, finding a mentor to being able to talk with someone about what they're seeing in the environment, as well as these areas where we can share information, whether it's through an in-person conference or a interface with the chat board. Again, just finding other voices to have conversations and dialogue to understand the environment, particularly unique to the industry that you want to get into.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And, this field can be quite isolating. A lot of proposal teams, RFP teams, knowledge management teams are small. You talked to yourself about how it was a one-person team when you joined, right? And so I think, hitting on the value and importance of connecting with the community, attending in-person conferences, it's a way to build community, connect with others, and also learn about what's coming next. So, talking about what's coming next, right? So, if you're looking ahead in the next few years, what's exciting you most about this field and where it's headed?
From the beginning, and as we go into future evolutions, the part that has interested me most has been the organizational design and process change management. Part of this field is always learning at what's new and understanding how that impacts the team that you're working on and the work that you produce. The process change management is the part that's most exciting because we get to look at what processes are functional and how do we stand them up to be more successful, more efficient and productive, as well as what's not working. And then, well, how do we adjust that? For me, curiosity has always played a role in that innovation, and to be a part of innovation and looking at, well, this isn't quite working right, but how do we work around that? Or what needs to happen instead? That is to me where the learning is most exciting and beneficial to the firm that I work for and just in my own personal professional development.
So, sounds like your two words of advice, Megan, are stay curious, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I'm confident that our audiences have been inspired and learned a lot from what you shared today. So, thank you again for being on the Responsive Podcast, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be with you today.